tutorial 4, and I'm just going to show you how to add instruments and how to actually play them. So as we've already gone through, we'll just delete these MIDI effects off. It's from previous tutorial. We've already gone through and discussed the difference between the audio and MIDI tracks. So now I'm going to show you how to actually play those instrument tracks. So first things first, come over to the instruments, and as always, if we either select the track or simply drag the instrument we want into the track, it'll load up. Now in the menu, when we come on instruments, like is the menu structure with Ableton, we have the stock instrument, but then if we open it up, we have the instrument broken down into different sounds. So we've got the bass, the brass, and synth keys and things like that. Again, we can expand that further to get lots of different presets. So this is the analog instrument, but in the bass sounds, and then we have all these different presets. To demo them, just click on one and scroll through, and you should be able to hear what the different instruments sounds like. If you can't, it'll just be this little headphone button there. So make sure that's selected, and then it'll let you preview the sounds. You should be aware that these are just previews. So for instance, if you're in the drum sounds and you click on one, it'll give you a demo of that drum machine and all the different samples in that drum machine, but you won't actually get a loop or a clip with them sounds in. So if I click on this drum, it's given you a preview of the different samples that exist in that drum machine, but when I double click it to add the instrument on, there isn't any clips. So if I wanted that sample or that preview, I would have to go through and actually create it. That's just one thing that always seems to confuse people when they move from using audio samples, where you can demo and then simply drag things in, with compared to instruments where it's giving you a preview of what you could create with that instrument. Sorry to waffle on, just it's important that I kind of make that clear, because I've noticed a lot of people do struggle with that. So I'm just going to come over, go to the analog instrument, and I'm going to select a bass sound. We'll just choose that one. Double click it, and it's opened up here. Now the first thing that you need to check is come down and ensure that this track arm button is selected. If it's not, the MIDI channel won't be looking out or listening out for MIDI input, and it won't play. So I'll change this one to a different instrument. Now if I want to play this track here, I need to make sure this is selected, or this track is listening for input. So then when I press the keys, it plays in this instrument. Just always check that, because a lot of people get really frustrated, so they'll want to play this track, but they won't have changed this track arm button over. So even though I've selected this track up at the top, when I press the keys, it's still playing this instrument. So just come over and select that button. Now when I press the keys, it plays the correct instrument. I'll just close all these other tracks down. Right, so to actually play an instrument, as long as we have this highlighted and we have this button up here selected, which is basically a button saying let me use my computer keyboard as a MIDI input device, we can actually play the instruments with the computer keyboard. So if you do have the correct instrument on, all the volume's up, the track button is on and everything, and you're pressing keys and nothing's working, just check that this button's lit up. So to play the keys, we can go from A to L. That acts as the white keys of a keyboard. The row above, Q to P, act like the black keys on a keyboard. So only certain keys will work. For instance, if we press Q, nothing happens, but W works. E works, nothing happens on R. T, Y, U, nothing happens on I. That's because if you look at a keyboard, there isn't constant black keys, but there is constant white keys. So those are the two rows of keys that you'll be using, A to L and Q to P. Now, you'll know that you're quite restricted if you look at pianos that have a huge amount of keys, whereas on your computer keyboard, you're restricted down to only having from A to L. The way around that is to move up or down an octave, and we do that by pressing Z or X. So if I press A key and then I press X and then A again, you'll hear it jumps up an octave. So I'll press X again and then A, X, A, and now I'll start going down. So A, Z, 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 and you'll hear it moves up or down octaves. So that gives you a lot more keys to play with, and that's how you play an instrument. If you ever wanted to play more than one instrument at a time, so I'll add a new MIDI track, either by right clicking in this area, or you can go up to create and then insert MIDI track, or you can use the shortcut if you like, which is Shift Command and T or Shift Control and T. Make a new MIDI track, and we'll stick a brass on this one. If you ever do want to play two instruments at the same time, just hold down the Command on Mac or Control key and select both of the track arm buttons. Make sure they're both on, and then when you press a key, both instruments will play. I don't really know why you'd want to do that, but you never know.